Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now, if you're diving into the world of electrical engineering, then you know how essential a solid understanding of electric circuit is. Today, we're going to take a closer look at a recommended book for beginners and experienced engineers alike, Electric Circuits Fundamental by Thomas L. Floyd. Now, this is the sixth edition of a true classic in the field, and whether you're an engineering student just starting your college journey, a hobbyist, or a professional looking to refresh your fundamentals, now this book is going to cover the core principles clearly and practically. I'll kind of walk you through what makes this edition stand out, its key strengths, and if it's still worth picking up in 2024. So I guess hang out with me as we break down Floyd's approach to circuits and determine if this is the right book for you. So this is the brief content section. So as you can see, it's broken up into two different parts. Part one of the book is DC circuits, with part two being AC circuits. And so here's all the different chapter breakdowns. So it'll start off with components, quantities, and units, and then you'll start going into voltage, current, and resistance for chapter two. Then you start getting into Ohm's law, energy and power, series circuits, parallel series circuits, magnetism and electromagnetism, uh, and then with AC circuits, the introduction to alternating currents. So I really like how it breaks down. So it'll tell you everything you need to know to kind of about on the series circuits, and then everything you need to know about parallel circuits. So these are the chapters that you'll be introduced throughout the book. So in the preface, the author kind of goes over what the kind of the main objective and goals are when he wrote this book. And he writes, this sixth edition of Electric Circuits Fundamentals provides a comprehensive coverage of basic electrical and electronic concepts, practical applications, and troubleshooting. This troubleshooting is actually something that I think everyone would really enjoy about this book because it bridges the gap, more of the very heavy theory that you can get in as an undergrad with a lot of the electronic circuit books at university, and it also tells you basically how to actually practically troubleshoot circuits that you actually see in the real world. So that's actually very, very beneficial, and it's very easy to read. In this edition, several areas have been strengthened and improved, and some new features have been added. This textbook is divided into two parts, DC in chapters 1 through 7 and AC circuits in chapter 8 through 15. And then some of the features, the engineering notations, electrical safety, troubleshooting symptoms and causes. Like this really teaches you how to think about a troubleshooting approach when you're trying to actually analyze circuits. So if you're running into any issues, this book actually helps you understand what might be the problems that might be happening in the circuit. And I think this kind of addendum to the student really kind of sets you up and then motivates you to actually want to learn electronics. It's not very dry reading. The content in this book is laid out really well for anybody to kind of pick up and then understand and actually practice and use in the real world. And he says anything worthwhile requires hard work, and electronics is no exceptions. The best way to learn new material is by reading, thinking, and doing. This text is designed to help you along the way by providing an overview and objectives for each section. Numerous worked out examples, practice exercises, and review questions with answers. Don't expect every concept to be crystal clear after a single read. Read each section of the text carefully and think about what you have read. I think that's just kind of really important to kind of go through, just something to set the expectations. You're not going to probably get the concepts at the first go through the reading, but it will take some dedication. And once you actually go through it, the concepts start coming to you. So here's chapter one on basic components, quantities, and units. And I really like this because when you're new to electronics, we have an idea of what a resistor is, but we've really never seen all the different packages that a resistor can come in. So I think that's very helpful because whenever you're trying to analyze circuits, usually we'll probably see the resistors as this package, but we really don't think about the other different type of resistors that we might encounter. So being able to have some reference to knowing what you're looking at is very beneficial. And it goes through a very clear introduction of what each component is, like a capacitor. Stored electrical charges and are used to block DC and pass AC. That's something that's very, very, very helpful when you're trying to know how a circuit works. You might be able to analyze a circuit and you can say like, oh, okay, I see the capacitor here. So this capacitor might be used to either store a particular charge, or it might just be act as a filter. So you can analyze a circuit and figure out exactly what it's doing and its purpose for why it's in that location. And as you can see, these are more of the different packages that you may see or find capacitors in, variable inductors, and also different types of transformers. And we can see assortment of semiconductor devices. So it kind of gives you a very good breakdown of what this stuff will look like. Now, later on in the chapter, you kind of start getting into the scientific notation, and it breaks it down pretty clearly. If you're an engineer, you're going to be using scientific notation a lot because it just makes things easier when calculating. Instead of trying to write down like 1,000, and then you can write 10 to the 3. Or if you was writing nano, it'd be 10 to the 9, you know. So it's very important to actually understand the scientific notation, and there's a lot of really good solutions that help you think about the numbers and how they're going to be expressed whenever you actually come across them in electronic devices. So they give you a lot of great examples in this book that you actually use, and it's very practical in the real world. So here, multiply 5 times 10 to the 12 by 3 times 10 to the negative 6 and express the results in scientific notation. It actually gives you an easy way to actually break this problem down algebraically, and we can see what the answer is. So I think that's very helpful. And then it gives you like a related problem. And here we have chapter 2. It kind of covers the basics of an atom. So this is a very good, clear introduction to atoms and basically electrical engineering, because it basically is about the flow of electrons and power and stuff like this. So if you go through this chapter here, it does a really good job of at least taking a lot of the concepts you might learn in your year 1 or year 2 physics class and actually making it easier and accessible and easily readable and digestible for you to just jump right in with electronics. And as you can see, this book has a lot of really good diagrams. It actually shows you how these components are actually made and designed, which is actually pretty good. A lot of the other engineering books that I have based on circuits, they go through the heavy math, but when you're actually running into electronic circuits, knowing how they're made actually helps you to think a little more analytically about to what might be wrong or how to actually design the system. Actually let you get a pretty good overview to actually help better in system designs. Here's another useful section also. It goes over basically how a lot of the electronic measuring devices work, such as ammeter and voltmeters and stuff like that. So it gives a very good clear introduction on what it's actually doing, and it also gives you some very basic diagrams on how to actually set up your circuit. So whenever you want to read voltage or if you want to read amps, this gives you a pretty good diagram of basically how to set up a simple circuit in order to test and measure it. Now, I want to talk about this section because it does a really good job of explaining exactly what's actually happening. For example, in this section in chapter 3, it's on Ohm's law on energy and power. It talks about the energy conversion and the voltage drop within a resistor. And it basically talks about what's happening on the atomic scale. So it's applying a little bit of first principles thinking in order to get you to be able to understand what's actually happening in the system. Why do we have a voltage drop? And it explains it kind of right here. As you have seen, there is a current through a resistance. Electrical energy is converted to heat. This heat is caused by the collision of free electrons within the atomic structure of the resistive material. When a collision occurs, heat is given off and the electron gives up some of its required energy as it moves through the material. And then here it has a very nice diagram kind of explaining that the work going in is less than the work coming out. Now, the number of charges remain consistent, but since there is a lower number of energy that comes out on the other side of the resistor, you have what is called a voltage drop. So this does a really good job in explaining that. Now, this section here is extremely important, and I'm so glad that this book has it and that I found this book that includes it because a lot of what's missing in a lot of the introductory and a lot of actually engineering books is real world application. So here, this book introduces in just about every other section troubleshooting methods, and it goes through a very good methodical way of being able to troubleshoot electronic circuits. And this is the introduction to troubleshooting and starts kind of in chapter 3. And it kind of simply explains technicians must be able to diagnose and repair malfunctioning circuits and systems. In this section, you'll learn a general approach to troubleshooting using a simple example. Troubleshooting coverage is an important part of this textbook, and you will find a troubleshooting section in many of the chapters as well as troubleshooting problems for skill building. This is important. This is critical because it teaches you not only how to think, but how to think critically and how to be more efficient at problem solving. And it'll go through all the different steps into troubleshooting. But here, troubleshooting is the application of logical thinking combined with a thorough knowledge of circuit and system operation to correct a malfunction. And then you start off with the analysis and explain the analysis step of how to analyze and look over a circuit. Then the planning, how you're going to fix it, and then measuring, and then it gives you a nice example of how to use this step to troubleshoot a particular circuit. Now, it's very simple, but it is kind of hand holding your, guiding you as a way to be able to troubleshoot circuits and think critically whenever you come into a problem. Now, one thing this book does have that's really good that I think is it has a ton of problems. So every section will have a problem set that kind of helps you go through. And you can work these out on your own, see how far you can do and how accurate you can be. But yeah, practicing problems is going to be good in order to solidify a lot of the basic concepts that you're trying to learn. And all the answers to the odd number problems are in the back of the book as a guide or reference to self-check. Now, this is later on in the book, but look how awesome this is. So this is another troubleshooting section later on. Now, the circuits get a little bit more complex, but they actually do a really good job of ensuring that you actually understand. The circuit represented by the schematic in figure 1062 has no output voltage, which is the voltage across the capacitor. You expect to see about 7.4 volts at the output. The circuit is physically constructed on a proto board. Use your troubleshooting skills to find the problem. And this is kind of an example problem, and then they walk you through it, thinking critically about how to troubleshoot this. And look at this here. They actually give you a breadboard example of how to wire it up and actually how to make the connections yourself if you was hooking this up to an oscilloscope. Like, this is really, really good job here. It allows you to be able to recreate these circuits yourself without having to hopefully try and troubleshoot and fumble through. And if you don't really have the confidence or understanding of how to make connections on a breadboard and connect them to an oscilloscope, this has a lot of great examples here, along with the actual troubleshooting steps that they went over in chapter 3. So this is like really good to be able to know where the parts should go, how they should be hooked up, and what you should expect when you're actually looking and testing them across a multimeter. So this is a really, 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 really good thing that was included in this book, and it goes through pretty much, there's multiples of these within this actual book, just about in every chapter. Another good thing with this book is the application assignment. They actually give you things that you can actually apply the knowledge that you're actually learning to the real world. And again, they actually attach it to an actual circuit board that you can actually use and hook it up to the oscilloscope. And then it'll be like step 1, measuring the coil resistance. Step 2, determine the inductance. Like, this is really good information to know. It's actually teaching you how to do things instead of just giving you the heavy math on it. So would I recommend this book to use alongside your university circuits book? Absolutely. It's a great as a standalone as well if you want a practical understanding of circuits. It's available on Amazon for about $15 right now if you're interested. So leave a comment and let me know what you think about this book. I hope everyone has a great day and take care.